Welcome into SportsZone All Access on this Monday, November 10th. Ian Sachs and Grant Sweeter. And Grant, it was a jam-packed weekend. And the biggest game of the weekend, State U. We knew it would be a good game down in Vermillion. South Dakota knocking off South Dakota State 24-17. And, well, just a lot to talk about here. Really a tale of two different halves, I would say. A lot of offense in the first half and a lot of defense in the second half.
Yeah, we saw both teams put up 17 in the first half, right? 34 of the 41 total points in the first half. And then USD comes out in the second half and has a really great drive to start the second half, scores a touchdown. And then that was kind of the end of it. First of all, we got to acknowledge here as we look at this, the blue versus the red, Ian. I mean, the all-blue primary color versus the all-red primary color. I loved that. First and foremost.
It was great. Absolutely great. We heard about it throughout the week. Maybe it would happen, and then when it got announced that it did, it's a great look. We need to do this every year for State U.
Yeah, no doubt. So that we have to give credit to. But, I mean, I wrote the gamer for this one for our website, and the numbers were just about even, right? I mean, 3 yards separating total offense. Passing offense a little bit towards USD, rushing offense a little bit towards SDSU. I mean, the numbers were just about even in this one. There's so many different takeaways to come away from this game. But I'm left just saying these two teams I think are very evenly matched with where they currently sit, and it made for a really good interstate series game.
That's exactly what you want in an interstate series. You think about last year, it was an overtime game up in Brookings that the Jackrabbits pulled out. Now this time it's the Coyotes coming out on top, and you want it to be a close game. You want it to be a one-score game. Neither team had more than a one-score lead throughout any point of it. Just a complete close game. That's exactly what you want. Now both teams kind of trying to figure out where they fall in the playoff landscape. We have just 2 weeks left in the regular season. The big question now is, where do these teams sit in terms of the playoff race?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'd like to say I think USD's in. They have some good wins in the FCS level. I think they're, what are they, 7-5 overall right now? I think is their mark. The problem is 7-6 is just scary, right? And so it's like, win this week, you're for sure in. But they have some nice FCS wins, right? Just beat North Dakota last week, just beat SDSU this week. Obviously the bad loss to North Dakota State on there. But I think USD, I think it's a win and in for them. For the Jackrabbits, I think one win gets them in for sure. And they got Illinois State at home this week. Then they go on the road again after that. But, SDSU, there's this team that's reeling right now, right? It's a team that I know is banged up. I get it. Jack Henry had flashes, but right now there's a lot to fix in Brookings. They're just not flowing on all sides of the ball like they were early in the season.
Kind of the statement that both head coaches shadowed there. Let's listen in to them, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more.
Great football game. I think number one, heck of an effort out of South Dakota State. Always going to get that when this game's played. And lastly, just really proud of our team. Our team's come a long way.
A few too many mistakes to get it done in the end, and didn't make some plays in the second half that we needed to be able to take the lead or potentially pull ahead.
Yeah, so you heard it there with both head coaches saying, for USD, another big win, knocking off the number 8 team in the rankings back-to-back weeks. And for the Jackrabbits now, it's 3 straight losses, and you kind of wonder where they are. The offense, the last 2 weeks really struggled. This week, we saw flashes of it, especially in that first half. And that second half struggled yet again. Punt, interception and then turnover on downs to end the game. And so they need to find more consistency. You mentioned, Grant, a minute ago, those injuries. But at the end of the day, it's all about who's on the field, and they just have to perform.
Yeah, they do. And they're not missing a ton of guys. They have the majority of their offensive line. They have the majority of their skills players. Obviously, like we know they're missing their quarterback, right? And that can make a difference too. But and for me, I liked what I saw from Jack Henry in the first half. I think they came out with a good game plan. The problem is USD adjusted, and SDSU had no answer to that adjustment, right? They really, the whole second half, they really didn't put together a ton. They had that one promising drive that ended with the interception. This play specifically, huge interception by USD that turned the game on its head. But other than that, SDSU didn't do anything the whole second half. So first of all, credit USD for that, right? Their defense really looked good. And really, when you think about it, they gave up a 1-minute scoring drive right at the end of the half and the one breakdown 75-yarder to start the game. So really, when you talk about consistently defensively, they didn't give up for much for long drives in this game. And so you got to give credit to USD's defense, a defense that at the beginning of the season we were questioning what they could figure out. They figured it out from there. And obviously SDSU with Jack Henry, I think there's a future there. I do, but there's a lot of growing to do there too. You saw some moments where you went, wow, this is why they picked him up. And you saw some moments where you're like, okay, he's got some learning to do too. That's
a great point there with the USD defense limiting SDSU's offense, the 1-minute drive and the 11-second 75-yard play. So you think about it, a minute and 11 seconds is when SDSU had success offensively. Outside of that, it's a 60-minute game. So for 58 and a half minutes, SDSU was limited to one field goal.
Yeah. Credit to USD's defense. And then for that, USD won time of possession by 5 minutes, and most of that was in the fourth quarter, and they kept the ball away from the Jackrabbits, which is also how you win a game, right? Team can't come back and score a touchdown to tie the game if they don't have the ball.
Great point there. So 2 games left for the Jackrabbits. Regular season home finale coming up on Saturday. The Coyotes on the road this week for their regular season finale, and then they have the bye the last week of the regular season. We'll talk much more SDSU and USD as the week goes on, but they weren't the only college football action. As we move down to the Division II level and talk some Augustana football, the Vikings suffering their first loss of the season, losing to Minnesota State at Kirkby-Over Stadium, and this was a game where the Vikings jumped on top with 7 early points. They were up 7-0 after 1, and then the Mavericks really took control of the rest of the game, 145-21.
Yeah, give credit to Minnesota State. This game reminds me very much of the USF Augie game, right? Where, and even then, Augie didn't start as well as they did in this day. Against USF, USF had that great start, got a big lead, and then Augie needed a lot of things to go their way, got them all to go their way. In this instance, both teams started really well. It was pretty even to start the game. And then Minnesota State found their rhythm there in the second and third quarter, and Augie could just do nothing to stay off the field on defense, stay on the field on offense. And it was really, I think Minnesota State just finally being one of the few teams to put pressure on Augie where they needed to be pressured, right? Putting pressure on them where they're at their weakest and then exploiting those weaknesses. And if Augie doesn't have many weaknesses, it's hard to do that. But Minnesota State did it and did it well. And that's the thing about the Mavericks is, you think, they got a couple losses this year. Maybe they're down, and then they go beat Augie, who's having one of their best seasons ever. So Minnesota State is so good in the month of November.
That they are. We saw that last season when the two met in the playoffs, and Augustana seemingly almost had the game won, and then the Mavericks came back in the final minutes and pulled a victory from the jaws of defeat. Yeah, that was one of the wildest endings that I've ever experienced live. But you mentioned that, second into third quarter for the Mavericks, it was a 14-all game, and then you blink after the third or early fourth, and it's 45-14. They just were able to find that extra gear that Augie just didn't have that day. Now the Vikings suffer their first loss. Now they need to bounce back this week against Wayne State.
Yeah, they do. Wayne State's not a bad team either. They just whooped USF. So I think we're kind of leading into something here, Ian.
Great segue there. Crosstown, Wayne State knocking off USF 42-13, almost identical scores to the Augie game, and very similar to Augie. USF jumped on top early. They scored on their first drive, went up 6-0, and then it was all Wildcats after that. The Cougars scored just 7 points the rest of the way.
Yeah, I'm glad that I was at the Bob Friday night for the Sioux Falls Christian game when there wasn't all this snow. That looks cold, but in this game, Wayne State gets up, I think 21-7. USF answers right away, and that was it. And then Wayne State just took over. And you talk about SDSU having injuries. USF's defense is a good mix of backups and starters, and they're really struggling. And if their offense is not feeding the defense, they really can struggle this season. We've seen that. It goes into this game, right, where the offense, when it was helping the defense early, was good, and then the offense started to have 3-and-outs and not move the ball, and that put the defense on their heels, and then it spiraled pretty quickly. So, USF, this is another learning season. It's disappointing for them. They came into this year with a great group of seniors thinking they could do something. Ton of injuries, including Camden Dean, their quarterback. The one thing that's happening, Tate Schaefer's the future of this offense. I really like what I've seen from the Lincoln product.
Yeah, he's looked really good so far this season. And now in the starting quarterback role, starting the Tate Schaefer era a little early, and growing pains are only up from here for next season. And then quickly, let's move over to Northern State up in Aberdeen. The Wolves falling to Minot State 49-28. You talk about time of possession. Minot State dominated the time of possession. 47.5 minutes to 12.5 minutes. When I read that in the box score, I said, wait, that can't be right. No, that's exactly what happened here.
Yeah, this is one of those games where Northern State's defense couldn't get off the field. They gave up a lot of long drives in this game. And then Northern State's offense is so explosive, right? They got so many explosive guys. And so they'd have a quick, really fast touchdown drive, and then the defense would go out there again. And this is not a pretty loss. This is the second loss of their 4 this year. The USF loss, they played close, got pulled away on late. Augie just beat them a couple weeks ago. But Bemidji State and Minot State are teams that are at the bottom of the league, just frankly. And Northern State, we've seen them play so good at home. This was one where they didn't. And, just another tough loss for the Wolves, who have made a big step forward this year. But this is another reminder, they're not to exactly where they want to be yet.
Yeah, very good point. The Wolves had less than 4 minutes of offense in the first half. They had 3 drives.
That's insane.
Less than 2 minutes on the first drive, and then less than a minute on the second and third drives. So really tough loss there for the Wolves. Well, we'll step aside. More SportsZone All Access coming up next. Welcome back into SportsZone All Access. Ian Sachs and Grant Sweeter here. And Grant, we talked a lot of college football. Yep. There was a lot to talk about there. Something else that happened over the weekend, SDSU women's soccer going back-to-back Summit League champions. The Jacks knocking off Oral Roberts, the top seed this year, 2-0 in the championship match on Sunday afternoon down in Tulsa. It was early offense from the Jacks, a goal in the 9th minute, and then they kind of coasted from there, added an insurance goal late in the second, and it was the defense that really carried them.
Yeah, their defense carried them the whole time, right? They went 3 games without giving up a goal. This is a 3-seed Jackrabbits team who, had lost a couple games this year. Another nice goal there. But, they lost a few games this year. Obviously, Golden Eagles were the top seed. And it didn't matter. 2-seed Denver, they didn't matter, right? They went on 1-0 the first game, 1-0 the second game, 2-0 the third game, and it's a 4-0 run through the whole thing to win 3 games. So, that's the thing about soccer is it is a defensive game, and if you can play good defensive soccer, if you can have, limit the opportunities by the other team to have ball possession, have shots on goal, and so on, you're going to be really good. It's that simple. And that was a key for them. They really controlled the ball a lot, which is what leads to offense and keeps and feeds your defense the best it can. And they got great goalkeeping play as well.
Yeah, Mallory Benhart, really good in the net for the Jackrabbits. But I think you also see the experience for SDSU going through this playoff run. Yeah, they're usually at home. Last year, the last couple years, they've been able to play at Fishback for the playoffs. now go on the road. No problem. We've been there before. We've won these games, come away with the championship, and we'll just do it again. We'll do it on the road this year.
Yeah, and it's cool, and this is a team that has won the Summit League tournament before, right? They've been here. This program has been here before, and so that's where that winning success shows out in the postseason sometimes. And we saw it again, obviously going 3-0 and not giving up a goal.
Yeah, so the Jackrabbits on to the NCAA tournament, a familiar feeling for the program. They do it once again this year. 2-0, the final in the championship match over Oral Roberts. We'll talk some college basketball when we come back to SportsZone All Access. Welcome back to SportsZone All Access, and now time to talk a little college basketball. There's a big game tonight at the Sanford Pentagon. Iowa State taking on Mississippi State. It's the 100th Division I basketball game at the Pentagon, and there's an additional storyline to that, in addition to that big doings, that big century mark for the Sanford sports staff. It's also TJ Otzelberger's return to South Dakota. He led the Jackrabbits for 3 seasons towards the end of last decade, had a great run up there in Brookings, and now he's leading the Cyclones as they take on the Mississippi State Bulldogs. So yesterday, I had an opportunity to sit down with the coach of the Cyclones, and let's listen in to that conversation. Coach, how does it feel to be back in South Dakota?
Yeah, it feels great. Really fortunate for the experiences we've had here. Tremendous sense of gratitude to Justin Self for giving us the opportunity to be a head coach of the Jacks. Those were 3 amazing years for myself, for our family, and then loved being back in this building. Had some great memories here. Had some challenges here and some tough times here as well, but just really appreciative to be back in a place where, familiar people. Sanford does an unbelievable job. First-class organization and operation here, so excited to be part of it.
You talked about your time with South Dakota State. What did you take from that experience now leading the Cyclones?
Well, when you get the first opportunity to be a head coach, you make decisions that I think, you're learning on the fly. And I think as time moves forward, you get better with those decisions and the choices that you make. And so having that first opportunity to be here, be with the Jacks, learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about our team and what we needed to do to be successful moving forward.
What's been the keys to success for you so far in your time in Ames?
We've been really fortunate to have tremendous young men in our program. Our coaching staff does a great job with player development. We've had phenomenal retention, the student athletes in our program. And our guys have bought into a work ethic that starts early every morning and daily habits that we really lean into. And we've established an identity defensively year in and year out that's given us a chance to be successful, and just got to keep doing the hard work each and every day.
How do you describe playing in such a tough conference like the Big 12, where it's night in and night out in conference play? You're facing what seems like a top 25 team.
Yeah, the competition in the Big 12 is second to none. I mean, you have Hall of Fame coaches, you have NBA players, you have guys up and down the league that are tremendous. And you know that every night out is going to be a challenge. And so competitively, that's what you want. You want to compete against the best. And at the same time, you can't really get too high or too low, because you know that there's going to be challenges, there's going to be successes, and you've just got to stay the course each and every day.
For fans seeing the Cyclones, what can they expect from your team?
We're going to be a team that plays extremely hard. We're going to really take pride, pressure in the basketball defensively, and try to turn our defense into offense. Team that takes pride on the glass, rebounding the ball, and trying to get second chance points and end possessions. And then we want to be a team that shares the basketball, that plays for one another. We've been fortunate our first couple outings to have 19 assists to really share the ball, and that's going to continue to be something that's really important in our game here in the Pentagon.
What have you learned the most over the first couple of days and games of the season?
Yeah, we've gone with a rotation of 10 guys, and we know that on a given night, someone may be playing better than someone else. And what we've told our guys is, it's your opportunity when you get in there to make that impact instantly when you get into the game. And we're going to honor the guys that are performing the best on that given night. And we've got trust in all the 10 guys and even further that we put in the game. But we'll see what each night holds and who's kind of making their deal work the best.
playing now in what's the 100th game, a college basketball game here at the Pentagon. How special is it to just see where it kind of grew and started from, and now to be a part of the century mark?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, to be part of the 100th game is a really cool experience and opportunity. I was here as an assistant, almost 10 years ago and had an opportunity to be here. So to see the constant evolution, I mean, the Pentagon is truly one of the great places for college basketball throughout the country. And I think people of Sioux Falls and fan bases are very fortunate to have the teams of the magnitude that Pentagon's able to bring in here. So just really grateful to everybody at Sanford for giving us this opportunity and our fans for coming out to support us as well.
Well, Coach, thanks so much for the time.
Thank you.
Well, we appreciate Coach Otzelberger for his time. A lot of fun chatting with him yesterday, and his record speaks for itself. 4 seasons leading the Cyclones, 4 trips to the NCAA tournament, a pair of Sweet 16 appearances last year, made it to the second round. 3 years at South Dakota State, 2 NCAA tournaments, and an NIT appearance. So a pretty good run for Coach Otzelberger there throughout his career. Had a couple of years at UNLV mixed in between the stops in Brookings and in Ames. This is the Cyclones' first game away from home this season. They're 2-0 on the year and should be a really fun one as they match up with Mississippi State tonight at the Pentagon. Tip-off set for 7 o'clock. We'll have highlights later on tonight on KELOLAND Sports. We'll be right back on SportsZone All Access. Welcome back into SportsZone All Access. Well, quickly before we go, a look at what's on tap for tonight. We talked a lot of SDSU USD, the Interstate Series. We'll recap the game once more tonight at 10. Then it's some college basketball highlights. USD women at home against Buena Vista, and Iowa State and Mississippi State. A fun game out at the Pentagon.
Yeah, got some good college basketball tonight. And a reminder, we got a really big semifinal recap high school football show coming up tomorrow on All Access. So just stay tuned to everything we got going on. It's a busy week here.
Yeah, busy week for high school football. 7 state championship games all starting on Thursday. So that'll be a lot of fun. We're busy all week getting ready for our high school football state championship preview show, talking to all the teams, getting more insight into just how they've gotten to this point and 1 game away from a state championship.
Yeah, a lot of excitement this week and just a good week. Stay tuned to all the KELOLAND Sports has got coming. Preview show Wednesday, state championships, college football, all that.
Yeah, well, that will do it for us here today. Thank you for tuning in to SportsZone All Access, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.